Time now is 6:31 p.m. Today is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. I'm Committee Chair Christine Baptiste Perez, and in attendance online, we have Mr. David Joanne. And so the first item on the agenda today is approval of minutes from May 9th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to move for approval of minutes from May 9th, 2022.
Second.
Right? You'll make the motion, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes from May 9th, 2022? Hearing none, we'll move on to the second item on the agenda, which is discussion and possible action regarding the relocation and or merger of Skane School with John Winthrop Elementary School. So in attendance, we have our lovely facilities team. We have Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Lily David, and then can't leave out Captain Greg and Lieutenant Park. And Dr. Morgan just came in. I'm sorry, the sun's in my eyes, so I didn't recognize who that was walking by. So is there anyone that's going to present?
I will start with a few details on both Skane and Winthrop. We'll start with the conditions. Both schools are the 1950 vintage. We'll start with Skane. Asbestos floor tile in the hallways, asbestos pipe cover, steam heating, original heating piping's in a tunnel, so it's a confined space. No forced ventilation system. Believe it or not, the school's on a septic system. The electrical capacity of the building is at its max at this point, so it's very difficult for us to add anything new. Technology, additional air conditioning for the special needs students. The pavement throughout the whole site is failing. Single pane windows, so the energy is just going around. I mean, any efforts for energy conservation are minuscule at best. We had to abate and replace the hallways at the beginning of the summer. At the very tail end of the school year, we had a steam leak in the tunnel. The steam leak was so severe that the steam started permeating through the concrete up into the hallway, and we had some issues with the asbestos tile that was in place. We were able to stabilize the asbestos tile at that time, do the repair over a couple days, and then right as soon as school let out, we did an abatement of the whole entire hallway and put down new tile because we needed to make it safe. That was a cost of $63,000. The repair, I believe, was somewhere in the range of $15,000. That building, the program was placed into the building. The building wasn't built for the program. I spent a little bit of time today with the director of early childhood and the principal. We did a walkthrough. We have NEAS coming up, and there's some items that we want to take care of in advance. The takeaway was that there's not enough space. We're utilizing every inch of the building. The stage has been converted into classrooms. Storage room is now the assistant principal's office. There's no storage for anything. We're looking at exterior storage for the site. So, we have this building for special needs students that is really not adequate for the program at this time. Winthrop, another building built in 1955, asbestos tile, asbestos ceilings, asbestos pipe covering, steam heating. It's original heating piping. It's non-ADA compliant. It's one of the 5 schools that are non-ADA compliant that the state has mandated that we come up with a plan for. Every time we go to the state for additional grant funds for school construction, we hit that roadblock of needing to come up with a plan for those non-ADA compliant buildings. So this does help in that effort as we continue to look for additional grant funding from the state. There's no forced ventilation. The sewer ejection system for part of the building has failed on us. We got a phone call 5:30 in the morning from our head custodian, and our boilers were underwater. We're talking about 8 feet of water. The boilers are in a pit, thank God, because if not, we might have been closing down Winthrop for good. We had to rent a heating system, a trucked heating system for the winter at a cost of $20,000 a month. And then we had to rebuild the burners, and the expansion tank was replaced. The infrastructure is failing throughout the building. Unfortunately, electricity's at its capacity, pavement failing, just like Skane. The temporary boiler was 70,000, and the rebuild of the burner and the condensate tank was 100,000. It's typical of 1950s construction. It's well built. The bones are there. It's just the infrastructure is past its useful life. On the plus side of it, Mike wanted to find a pro because we had nothing but cons on these two. 40% of the building has a slate roof, which is quite nice. Those are the conditions of both those buildings. I can field questions on that piece of it. All right.
Just really quickly, I want to acknowledge committee member Albert Benningham is in attendance, as well as, okay, my prescription glasses are not that good. I think Joseph Kolovic is, well, yeah, that's his face. Joseph Kolovic is in attendance. And
Good evening, everyone.
evening. And then board member Jennifer Perez. So first I'm going to pass it over to, before I pass it over to committee members, I just want the public to know that once I learned of the plan, I did ask some preliminary questions and they were answered. And also Mr. Garcia did answer some of the questions. So I'm just going to read it out loud. Regarding the possible relocation and a merger, is this a merger or relocation? This would be a merger of both schools. A Skane school will become part of the Winthrop campus. There are programming concerns with whether students in Skane will have the option to stay in Winthrop for elementary school and middle school. Let's see. I asked some preliminary questions regarding funding. That I'll let us get to a little bit later on in the conversation, but yes, just for the public in terms of transparency, this will be a merger of both schools. We're going to be part of the Winthrop campus. Now I will open the floor up for committee members first. So, Mr. Benningham, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Garcia, and sorry to come a little late and try to, get inside the meeting online. And I heard you said something about Skane School, and we are very lucky we not get sued. How come we not get sued yet? The Skane School will be done soon. And what is the plan? Because I want, Skane School is one of all schools are very important, but Skane School, how they are, the parents, and I don't want to get complaints later. So I just want to know how far Skane School is going.
This will be a merger. The intent of this program would be to merge both Skane and Winthrop. We would look to build an additional wing to the school. There's space on site. We have done a walkthrough. We've gotten estimates. The city's going to be putting up $17.8 billion that the city council has already approved to be part of their bond issue. So we've got the city match, and we're going to build a program that's needed. We're going to build a building for the program. So, we're going to take into account all the needs of that program, and space that's needed for that program. I think that's a powerful piece here because currently we are in a building that's not adequate for the program you're trying to run there. And the building's at, on its last leg, infrastructure is failing. So this will solve that issue.
Any additional questions, Mr. Benningham?
Sorry, I didn't catch how many million you said the city will give, Mr. Garcia?
The city's committed to $17.8 million, which is the city's match. The reimbursement rate for this project is 78.57% from the state. What was that?
7851.
78.51 from the state. So my numbers are off, and 21-ish% from the city share. So, the city's got substantial skin in the game here. In terms of getting this program done, understanding that, every time we go to the state, the fact that we have non-ADA compliant buildings still in the city is an issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garcia. No more questions, comments, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Jalan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good evening, and thank you for the report. What would be the timeline for this project?
So, right now, in order for us to have gotten on the priority list, we needed to get the application in June 1. We reached out to Michelle, I can't remember her last name, out in the state and asked if we can get our application in October 1. The state granted that through legislation to give us the ability to submit our application in October 1. So our timeline has been getting the approvals that the city council needed to get in line, the resolutions authorizing the dollars, and then our piece is authorizing the ed spec. I'll get the meeting minutes from John. I've spoken to John about getting those in an expedited fashion in order to meet the October 1 date. Once we submit to the state, we'll go on the priority list. We need to get a shovel in the ground 2025. And, a shovel in the ground could be a construction fence around the building. There's many ways to get to that point. And then we're looking at 18 or 24 months.
24.
24 months of construction,
Fall of
2007.
27. And the
Thank you.
funds are
And with that-
Wait, there's still discussion going on. Can you hear them?
Yep, and the funds are in place at the state level also. So the funding's in place. We need tonight's resolution, and then we can get that application in and secure everything.
I'm going to open it up to board members. Ms. Perez, do you have any questions, comments?
No questions or comments at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Sokolovic, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, a couple. All right, we're talking about a separate wing for the Skane School?
Yes.
And how firm is that? Because in the preliminary discussions about BASIC and BMA, it was supposed to be like a separate section for them as well, but somehow that got changed. Is that,
So I wasn't here for BASIC, but what I can say is that we're looking at this specifically as a wing built specific for that program at Roosevelt. I mean, at Winthrop, I'm sorry.
right, Skane and Winthrop? All right, and next question is, has there been any outreach to the Skane community and the Winthrop community about mixing the two programs in one building with separate wings? And
Once we get approval tonight, we can start to set up a calendar for outreach.
and I know, right, and also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, Skane is like a mixture of a heavy mixture of special ed and general education students. Like 50-50 is like, I think but this was a couple of years back information in my head.
I believe it's a specialized program, the entire building.
So totally specialized. Yeah, because I'm just asking about the education, because least restrictive environment concerns and all that. If any of the children could be mainstreamed slowly out of the program into the building, if these considerations have been taken into account.
The goal is that they'll have their own entrance. Circulation for them will be, we'll segregate segregation into the building and things like that. There'll be some shared space, obviously, with the combination of both buildings. But we're going to be thoughtful in how we design this building. We're going to make sure that there's outreach. We're going to make sure that department heads and educators have a voice here. All those things are important. It's time. We got a lot of old tired buildings. This is a tremendous opportunity.
I agree. Yeah, I just want the community definitely to have the input, and it seems like we're all on the same page on that. Yeah, so it sounds good to me. That's all I have. Thank you, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Mr. Benahan, your hands up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Garcia, when you say there's gonna be like a 24 months in the process of the school, it will be no students inside, right? Or it will be a student inside? I don't want.
No, our intent is to utilize the CSA as swing space. There's still a lot of little details that we've got to work through. But right now, CSA will be vacated. The goal for us, I think, should be that we keep CSA. We should not turn CSA back over to the city. We need flexible space. This gives us flexible space for this program and any programs moving on in the future. Because before I leave here, I want to reinvigorate the school construction program. That's my goal. That's why I'm back here. So we need to make sure that we have that swing space and we align ourselves properly to move forward and rebuild these schools.
Any additional questions, Mr. Benahan?
No, thank you, Mr. Garcia. We appreciate your information. I know we trust you. You're the master of that. Thank you for everything you do and your team.
Appreciate that.
Okay. I have,
Can I ask a question, please?
yes, you may.
Okay, so Winthrop has 593 kids and Skane has 183 kids. So the space that you're building, I know Skane feeds into Winthrop, so I understand that combination. The space that you're building will be able to accommodate over 700 kids moving through Winthrop's building.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure of that.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a few questions and comments as well. One of the things I looked at was last year's capacity versus enrollment, and just by the vacancy in the building for Winthrop, they can absorb Skane. So I kind of looked at that in terms of it. But I have a question because this has come up as an issue in the past, not related to anyone that I know of in this room, but just an exit plan for the Skane building, just because of the recent media attention with Hardin High School. This may be just something further for this committee to develop, or the governance committee to develop some kind of exit plan, because I saw that there's going to be, I forgot what the acronym stands for already, but it's FF&E, which I know
Yep.
includes supplies.
All new furniture, technology, all of that stuff. So, we're going to build a 21st century building and close the educational gap from old buildings that we can't add anything to a new facility. And then in terms of vacating buildings, we're working on a policy now that will address all of those, not only the facilities end, but security. How do we exit with any equipment that needs to be taken down? How do we address the fiscal piece? How do we address the supplies? Everything. We're looking at every aspect across the spectrum of the district, because we realize that we need to have something that not only takes into account the facilities end, but every end of it. And then how are we going to maintain the building till it's handed over to the city? Because I think it's important that with what happened with Harding, that we have this plan and it's done in advance of any school or anything that we build, because we want to make sure that everyone realizes that we're serious about this and that this is something that we want to move forward with, not just with Skane and Winthrop, but with any other building that we build.
I know when I got to tour the facilities office, this was mentioned in our conversations, and our public school facilities master plan is from 2008.
Sure is.
Again, I had a chance briefly before this meeting to talk to Dr. Levy-David. The process to get a 2023 plan or 2024 plan, and I guess if you could just share with the public what that would look like, and
Absolutely.
maybe just for layman's term, what is the facilities master plan and why we need it and why we shouldn't be using something old.
Yes. So the facilities master plan is really the playbook in terms of what we need to do moving forward with our facilities. It takes into account enrollment, future enrollment. It takes into account the programs that you're going to be putting in place, the conditions of the buildings, and then it ranks the buildings in terms of our needs and prioritizes what buildings we should be looking at in order. We're sort of out of sequence with Winthrop and Skane, but this opportunity is here, so we'll take it. And the goal is for us to get this facilities master plan together so everyone is on the same page. I'd love to have the conversation with the council, the same as I have with the board, the same as I have with the superintendent, driven by a document that is done by a third party that is validated. I think that's very important for us. With that playbook, it gives us the ability to now make those requests for what buildings we need to rebuild, what we need to renovate. That's a powerful document. I've had several conversations with the Budget Appropriations Committee on the city side. I'm praying that we were able to lock in some dollars to get this facilities master plan put together. And this will help guide us. And it gives an unbiased view on exactly what it is that the district needs in terms of its facilities.
And so that's, again, I'm just saying this for the public so anyone at home can understand. You would have to issue an RFP to find that third party to help with develop that vision. Okay. Then, I know I discussed this, but and you mentioned that it's gonna be a 21st century modern building. This won't be like past construction projects. And I'm gonna bring up the example of Black Rock, where it's an older facility with a newer addition. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It just so the public can understand what's the difference between those two and how this is going to be better, I guess, for Bridgeport Public Schools and for those two particular buildings.
So with this building, we did add a few extra dollars. The city has committed a few extra dollars on their share because we wanted to ensure that the theory of design is met. When I say theory of design, some programs, when you start to run out of money and you value engineer things out of the program, the first thing that folks want to value engineer out is the mechanical components because you don't see them, right? What we've learned from that is that that's just an expense that we're punting till later. Patala, we're putting in a new chiller. Tisdale, we're putting in a new chiller, and so on and so on. We have our issues with LG over at Black Rock. So this program, we looked at it thoughtfully and said, okay, this is our estimate. This is our match. Let's add a couple dollars to ensure that we're able to push this through the finish line in a way that makes sense for the long term.
The budget for the project is 75 million. And when we rebuilt Roosevelt, demolished and started over, it was 44 million. So there's plenty of money in this budget.
It's good to know there's buffer. Almost double the buffer.
I mean, it's a costly venture just because the building is built for the long term. But, we have enough dollars to make sure that we provide the kind of facility that we can all stand behind.
Yeah, no, again, I'm looking at the report that we had on our May 9th meeting. And yeah, the last renovations for the building for Winthrop School was in 1969. And then Skane, 1980. So I've been to Winthrop School. I haven't had the opportunity yet to tour Skane School, but I'm going to take your word for it. I'm going to quickly just go around before we go forward with a potential motions. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns, board members? You can raise your hand. Seeing none. And I bifurcated these two agenda items because I wasn't sure at first whether it was going to be a merger. So the first action item is, and I'll entertain a motion for the merger of Skane School with Winthrop Elementary. Would anyone like to move it?
If I can, the motion will be to accept the ed spec.
That's what we need the approval of.
Yeah. So the state requires that we have a motion for the educational spec that was provided, which just depicts the condition of the building, the long-range educational plan, which is.
And I mentioned Skane being part of it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, I split that up because I wasn't sure. So that,
Perfect.
the first one is the Skane with Winthrop, then the second part is the ed spec. Don't worry, I didn't I didn't destroy the agenda. I thought it was two, one or the other. So I just kind of broke it down to be safe. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion for the merger of Skane School with John Winthrop Elementary. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? I'm gonna do it again. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, the ayes have it unanimously. The third item on the agenda is the ed spec. So I'm going to also move for the ed spec, that's state project number 105-10182, renovation for the John Winthrop Elementary School. It was already discussed and provided in our packets, and we discussed it simultaneously with item number 2. So I make that motion. Do I have any second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been seconded by Mr. Jalan.
I'm sorry. The number that was on the agenda was not the correct number.
Oh, yeah, because it should be 015.
Yes, because that's Bridgeport, 0182 RNV/EA.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we were moving a motion for a completely different city, right?
Somebody would be very happy with $75 million.
I'm gonna completely withdraw the motion. So the motion, would anyone like to approve a motion for state project 015-0182 for the renovation of John Winthrop Elementary School? I'll make that motion. Would anyone like to second?
Second.
I second, Mr. Batista, second, Mr. Benehan.
All right, the motion's been second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a report for the COVID health preparedness report for the fall school year.
Ms. Batista,
Yes. Mr.
please give it
Benninger?
a few seconds. Please give it a few seconds sometime because, the connection's not very good. If we don't say I fast, it's because of connection. I'm trying to say I as soon as possible. You say, your words. So just give it a few seconds, please.
Okay, I'll deal with the silence. Thank you for calling it out. I just thought I was alone for a second. So, yes, so I believe, yes, okay, her name's being blocked. Sorry, Miss Early. I was like, your name's being blocked from my view, and I was like, I just wanted to confirm. If you can just present to us the COVID health preparedness report for this fall.
So I shared the Bridgeport Public Schools COVID-19 guidelines, which was updated on August 18th, 2023. In it, we have some of the same things that we had incorporated from the previous years, where we will continue to encourage vaccination for those who are available, continue to advocate for families and staff members to practice symptom self-awareness where they use their judgment and stay home when ill. And then in accordance with the current CDC guidelines, we are continuing to, when notified of a positive COVID case, isolate for 5 days, and then they can return on day 6, masking through day 10. As of today, we have had, and from August 21st to today, staff cases are at 19. For student cases from August 28th until today, we have 41 reported cases. As many of you may have saw on the news, the boosters were just approved, and once we have been made aware by the Bridgeport Public Health Department that they are available, we will provide that information to our students and staff and families as well.
I'll open up the floor to committee members first. I don't remember who I started with the last time, so I'll just go from what's on the screen. Mr. Benehan?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening.
Okay, we'll come back to, I'm supposed to be patient.
You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Just want to know, let's say, do you have a report about COVID, what we have last year to from this year? The numbers went down?
Yes.
Or it's still the same or went
No,
up?
the numbers have decreased significantly, but that also may be related to reporting. So the number of testing sites available are also lower. Medical providers are now testing less frequently than they would have during the start and middle of the pandemic. Now, if you go to a provider, if you don't have a certain number of symptoms or have indicated that you have been in contact with someone, it's less likely that they're doing COVID testing. And it's more symptom based. So if people, I'm sorry, are you saying something? Oh, okay.
No, I was
Yes.
on mute, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. So our numbers are significantly lower, yes.
I just want to ask you that because I don't want to. It's not a situation that we're gonna learn our community and our Bridgeport, but coming from my doctor, and she informed me that maybe our COVID maybe is coming back because it's coming from New York and up. So, do you have, as a nursing professional you are, and I know you got connection with the doctors and university, you think that thing is still the same low, or we're not gonna get hit or something like that? Because I don't want to take our parents and staff and community surprise. Oh, this is what happened. We don't want that to happen again.
Well, it's important to remember that now that COVID's here, I don't anticipate it going anywhere. This is something that we will continue to deal with on a yearly basis. And much like the flu, it will have times where it peaks and lowers. So I do expect that just like the flu with the upcoming October, November season, we will have an increased number of cases and then we'll start to come down again.
And my last question, do we the nurses we have, they are ready to do a flu shot or they have to be going in clinic?
No, so our school nurses do not provide vaccination in our building unless they are doing work for the health department. So we work in collaboration with the City of Bridgeport's health department, along with partners such as Southwest, Optimus, Hartford Health, and Griffin has also assisted in the past.
And my last question for you, but our school nurses, they are have the updates from the students, who need vaccination. They're okay, the update. I know it's a lot of students, but I believe in the record, maybe she can see in the computer, oh, they need to update. You need to get this, be sure you have this ready, for the school. The school nurse doing that part of work, let them know the parents, if the child need any update vaccinations.
Absolutely. That's one of our biggest drives, especially at this time of the school year, is reviewing immunization, vaccination records for all the students that have come in, and then contacting the parents about updates. If we're working in a school with school-based health centers, then collaborating with them so that the students can have their vaccinations in school. The flu vaccine is mandated for our pre-K students. That's mandated by the state. So information has gone out to the pre-K students, not just through the school nurse's office, but through the Office of Early Childhood Education, to remind those families that a pre-K flu vaccine is required by January 1st, 2024. So that's something that, yes, we can go right into Power School and we can see who's out of compliance.
And it's mandated to all staff of Bridgeport School too, either?
No, the flu vaccine is not mandated for staff.
Okay, so they mandate for the students, but it's not mandate for the staff. That's very picky for me.
It's only mandated for pre-K students, and that's mandated through the state of Connecticut, not Bridgeport.
No, I understand. But imagine if we have a staff is, had the flu and coming from the school, and we don't want that situation to happen. But that's another level that we can speak and talk about. But thank you. No more questions this moment, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Jelland?
I've got my colleague Albert Benahan. He asked a handful of questions that I was thinking. Are we seeing any staff members at all? If you mentioned it during the beginning portion, it was a little shaky, so forgive me. Any staff members at all, calling out sick or reporting having COVID?
We've had 19 reported positive staff cases so far.
Okay. And any corresponding students as well, maybe from the classrooms?
So any related cases? No, I have no indication that any cases have been related.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No additional questions.
Mr. Sokolovic?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I've been reading recent media reports and such, even in the district, about some sort of surge in COVID and RSV being a concern and having to take extra precautions. Are we taking any extra precautions in our schools, or are we doing the same exact things we've been doing since last year?
So working in collaboration with Mr. Garcia from facilities, we do monitor the cleanliness of the schools. As nurses report cases to me, I reach out to Mr. Garcia if there's any indication that we need to add any extra attention to any particular building, wing, or classroom. We also have PPE available, and as staff members request, we send it out, and administrators, when they request an uptake in the number of whether it's mask or sanitizer that they need, we provide that. I believe Mr. Garcia has said they have a turnaround time of 24 hours after a request is made.
So, and you say, oh, I'm sorry, good.
No,
Sorry.
no. So we are taking those types of things into account, and it's really monitored on a classroom by classroom, school by school basis. So the nurses are in constant communication with me as things develop in their buildings, as are many of the administrators. They work in close collaboration.
Right. Okay. So our numbers are down from last year significantly. So basically, in your opinion, we're not seeing a surge that we need to worry the parents about or anything in the school community, that we're still as safe as we were in 2022.
Yes. And, it's something that we'll continue to monitor. So as it changes, we'll keep the superintendent updated so we can make any changes we need to.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
You're welcome.
I have a point of personal privilege. Board members online, were you able to clearly hear Miss Early on my end? There was a lot of points where she was frozen, so I just want to make sure the information was communicated and your questions were answered.
I got everything, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Okay. Ms. Perez?
I have no questions at this time.
Okay. The only question I have is, in terms of the distribution of supplies, is there a uniform district-wide protocol for how supplies are going building to building, or is it just on an as-need basis where the principal will request the supplies?
So it's on as-needed basis. Currently, we've transitioned over to online ordering system, so everything is done in real time now. As there's a request for PPE, it's a 24-hour turnaround time, unless there's an eminent need, and one way or another, whether it's a manager, myself, whoever, we'll get it out immediately.
Okay. Seeing that there's no hands up, then that was really the only question I had. Thank you, Ms. Early. We'll move on to the next agenda item, but really quickly, just to be clear and transparent with the public, for agenda items 2 and 3, it was approved at the committee level and it will be presented to the full board on Tuesday, September 26, 2023. Nothing past is final in the committee level. It always goes up to the full board. The next agenda item is a safety update report. This item qualifies for executive session. Committee members, I sent you an email regarding the content and why I believe it is critical that the information that was sent to Captain Greg and Lieutenant Parks should be discussed in executive session. So at this time, and you had an opportunity to review what I was asking in advance. So would anyone like to move that the updated safety report is conducted in executive session? I'll move for it to be conducted in executive session.
You beat me to it.
All right. Would you like to second?
It will be my pleasure to second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none. The Health, Safety, and Facilities Committee the time now is 7:11 p.m. We'll move into executive session and then come back to the public once we're done. Thank you.
Yes. topic for discussion this evening. Our ESSER budget is down to it's $5,141,173. We take great care in itemizing each project and each dollar spent through ESSER. And all of these are investments that we see that we need to make in the district. So, we can highlight some of the things that we've done. Throughout the district, we've replaced 1-for-1 replacement of 10 chillers. We actually have done 9 of 10 are complete. We're doing 10 boilers. Of the 10 boilers, 7 are complete. We have 3 to go. They're in progress now, so we'll be ready for the heating season. These big pieces of infrastructure are important to us because we want to make sure that we take on the biggest, most expensive piece of equipment that we know we're not going to be able to fund in a catastrophic event. So our goal is to make sure that we're working from the outside in, that we have a plan that is based on energy efficiency, on longevity of infrastructure, and something that, we have wrapped around contracts in order to make sure that we're maintaining these pieces of equipment, along with dialing in our controls, recommissioning of our controls so we understand what's going on in our buildings, unifying everything. So those are some of the things that we've done on the HVAC side of things. I always say it, in order for us to do this right, there's going to be pain that goes along with that, because we can always bypass something or do something short-sighted. Right now, this is that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to get it right with the proper funding in place. So we ask for some patience as we work through the process of getting these buildings to where they need to be. We've also worked on bringing some outdoor classrooms to the district. 4 complete. We have one in the courtyard of Blackham. We have 1 at Marin, and we have 2 at the JFK campus, 1 for each school respectively, High Horizons and multicultural. We've also put in 3 playgrounds. Well, 2 are complete. 1 will be complete by the end of the week. 2 that replaced outdated playgrounds at Marin, and 1 that was filling a void over at the multicultural site. We ripped down the old wood structure. So that was impactful in terms of what we've done there. We purchased some custodial equipment. As we look at the FTEs and the fact that we are short-staffed, we're trying to find creative ways in order to make up for those FTEs that aren't here. So we've made some strategic purchases on ride-on equipment for the folks in the field. We're looking at the historical issue of compensation, which I'm glad to say that we have a historical low in terms of compensation. We've reinvigorated our safety committee. So we're seeing that these investments that we're making, along with the trainings, along with the certifications, and the fact that we're working with our team intimately on the best practices in the industry are starting to pay off. What else have we done here that we can talk about? There's so much. We've sanded down 2 gyms this summer, restriped and recoated. The sanding and recoat, the sanding is needed in areas that over time lines have faded, and we needed to get those gymnasiums back up to where they need to be. And also there's a safety factor with recoating of the gym floors. We've gotten everything in the district now is on a 3-year schedule. So whether it's recoating of the gym floors, crack sealing of our lots, striping of our lots, we've got everything on a 3-year cycle now. So now we know that we're going to ensure that safety marking is there when it needs to be, and all of those safety features that are needed throughout the district are taken care of. We've also done tremendous masonry work throughout the district, repointing of areas where we had water penetrated. Allen, Beardsley, Hall School, we're having issues with moisture coming through the brick, so we've repointed to sort of address those issues. Subsequent to that, we've had to get into the building and do repairs now that will hold because we don't have the water penetrating. Concrete work, we've done a lot of sidewalks throughout the district. One of the goals is to, make sure that as children traverse to school, that there's no impediment to their walking to the building, which was a major concern of ours. So we've done a tremendous amount of concrete work throughout the district. And then asbestos abatement, we've been tackling a lot of asbestos abatement because that is a critical feature for us, because one of the things that happens is every time there's a cracked tile, we have to respond based on the regulatory piece from the state. So what we've done is we've looked at what's changing in the industry and we've applied that to our method when we're replacing. So when we do abatement, now instead of putting down VCT tile, we're putting luxury vinyl tile. The benefit of luxury vinyl tile for us is that we don't have to strip and wax. So once again, looking at the FTEs, looking at the workforce and saying, what can we do to help them and what can we do to have some longevity and really make the district position itself for efficiency. We've made some gains. We've switched over our line of chemicals. We've gone to a greener chemical. Instead of having 5 different chemicals, we've reduced that down to 3. Along with that, there's modules of training that came along with that conversion. This is the second year that all of our custodians went through the best practices training in the industry. So that's complete. And part of the chemical agreement was that we have all of our ordering online, not only the chemicals that are supplied through the chemical company, but every one of our commodities in the district. So now we get to see what's going on in real time. It's great for Jamie to understand where we are fiscally. We've got minimums. So once we hit a threshold, it triggers for us to create a bill of materials. So now we're not struggling with not having things. The goal of all of that is to ensure that the management team has something to look at instead of running into the field, constantly having to have meetings to address what our needs are. So that's the ESSER world. We've got some strategic projects still in the hopper to close out the ESSER dollars that we have. We will spend every dime strategically. We've got 2 major projects that we'll be bringing to the board. There's 2 bids out, one for the JFK pool ventilation system. We're doubling down on that pool because it's the last pool in the district. So we put new heat pumps. We've done a tremendous amount of work in that pool to get it to where it needs to be. And we're finishing the final touches to reopen. And we've also got a bid out to replace the HVAC system at Carryout. Now, with Carryout and some of the schools that we look at, like a Marin, for instance, we want to get that building up to 100% again, right? So we had a meeting this afternoon right before this meeting about what's next for next summer, right? We have to start talking early because some of the things that we have to order are a year out, believe it or not. The chillers were ordered a year ago that were installed this summer. So we have to have conversations early and we've got to come up with planning that makes sense for everyone. So for Carryout, they're getting a new rooftop. Makes sense to do HVAC. We've made major gains with the custodial staff, which I want to publicly thank everyone in building operations for the work they put in because everyone's gone above and beyond. From the custodial staff for the first time finishing a week early to give them the opportunity to work closely with their principals, to the trade staff of 19 individuals that have gotten out there and done a tremendous amount of work for the district. So I just want to thank them for all their hard work, along with the management team, because I tell you what, we are a family and we work together to get these things done and no one holds back. So these projects, when we look at them, we strategically say, how do we close the gap in that building to get us the closest to 100% of what the building was when we first built it? So we look at these to ensure that every investment is lined up with what's next. So there's a lot of planning that goes on. And, Mike is brilliant with this stuff. So, now we're looking at elevator upgrades, replacement of elevator at Dunbar, modernization of several elevators. This is a major problem in the district. So we've taken that into account. We're also taking into account that we want to do some testing of our HVAC system. So now we don't have to constantly wait for something to happen. We have data to sort of help us predict the future. So now we can make strategic investments. So that's part of this. We're going to do some HVAC. We're going to bring in new heating to Black Rock due to the LG issue, which I think we should cover in the next board meeting because LG, the systems aren't working and it's an issue throughout. There's several towns and cities in the state of Connecticut right now that are struggling and we're lining up for a civil suit potentially. But we're going to be redesigning a heating system to provide heating there. So we have some redundancy. We're looking at an additional boiler at Madison, 2 boilers at Madison School. We're going to pre-buy some custodial supplies. We're going to pre-buy filters, so we're ahead of the game. And then custodial equipment. We're going to make another round of investments, and one of those investments is in automated equipment. So the ride-on scrubbers that we purchased that will do that whole entire job on its own. So we had a demo here in Harding. So our goal is to put them in Harding, Central, Fairchild Wheeler, and Batalla for now. And then when we do the construction of Bassick, that will be part of the FF&E. So once again, how do we figure out the FTE without having to hire additional folks, understanding the fiscal cliff is coming? We're carrying some money for additional repairs because as we bring in new chillers, get our controls online, we start to find these problems that we couldn't see before. So strategically, we want to put a line in there to make sure we address those issues to continue to build out in that sphere. And then pre-buying HVAC filters and air purifying, the air purifier filters. So we've got a plan of 7.3 million and we've got 5.1 million left. So we feel confident that we can spend all the dollars. We also are carrying money for environmental, additional asbestos removal around some of the projects that we're going to have to do when we have to abate in advance of that project. And then we're looking at shades again and things like that. We've done a tremendous amount of work in shades throughout the district because some of the shades were just failing. And that's just one more layer of comfort in a building for these teachers. So that's a quick overview on ESSER. And then the final piece that I wanted to bring up this evening was we have gone digital. I know we've talked about it for some time. We finally have implemented all of those pieces that we discussed. So our rentals are now online and they're working. It's beautiful. We've not only added the permitted stuff, but also the athletic calendar was merged and what's that one? The school-based, I forgot what it's called. Well, the school-based stuff. So everything's on one calendar now. So we can see globally what's going on in our buildings at the press of a button. And it gets Penny back to the family so we can all work together. Because she was spending 75% of her time chasing folks down. So we're happy that's done. We got the online ordering, that's implemented. We have the Q&A, which is the custodians do their quality inspections every day. 8:30 in the morning, I see the whole entire district graded. The superintendent gets that. The principals see that weekly so they can see where they are. And then we've got our new work order system up and running, which simplifies things. It gives us the ability to now input how many hours per job, pictures. This is very intuitive and user-friendly, but it gives my management team the ability to see what's going on in the district at a granular level without having to spend the time behind the wheel going from place to place. And then what we do now is when we see deficiencies in our reporting, now we can target those deficiencies with a lot more efficient procedures and processes, because we do a lot of driving and we do a lot of running around in this district. We need to focus that, and now we have the tools to do that. And I want to thank the team once again for their hard work, because this was all hands on deck to get all of this done, and we got it done this summer.
Nice. Again, I was impressed when I got to visit your team. I feel like it was last April. Thank you for being very thorough. For me, you answered a lot of stuff. For anyone watching in the public, I kind of followed up with anything that was presented at our last meeting in May to just kind of get an update as to where we are. At this time, I'll open the floor to committee members. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns regarding the facilities update report?
Madam Chairman, I don't have no question or comment at this moment. I don't think I can say thank you, Mr. Garcia and your team, for your amazing job. I always trust you. You do a great job. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Mr. John?
No questions from me, and I second my colleague, Albert Benahan, do a phenomenal job and explain things very thoroughly in order for me to understand this. Again, this is not my expertise, so thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one question, or two. When you say BlackRock with the LG system, are you referring to the actual brand LG and a potential class action?
Yes.
That was the lawyer in me, public, that was curious.
So the HVAC system, it's a VFD, right? VRF. All these three letters drive me crazy. It's just this system. It's a unique system to the district. It's the only one we have in the district. It's problematic. Once again, when when you start to value engineer from these programs, you start doing things that are not the tried and true that we are built for. And then it's a disparate system that we don't understand. And then you start finding out that it's not really what's needed in this region. Fairchild Woodley was another one with the chilled beam, you know. That's a neat system. I did a chilled beam in the Middle East. That doesn't work in the Northeast. You know, it's a big difference. So these unique systems based on value engineering, this is why when we see the mechanical components, we want to make sure that in new construction, the theory behind that design is what it is. That's very important. And we are ensuring that at BASIC, and we'll do that moving forward.
Also, just a follow up to that, is that something that would also be part of a facilities master plan?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so then that's
Yep.
further evidence as to why that should be needed. And then excuse me, I'm going to probably use the wrong terminology, but and this is also a follow up to May, but is there a centralized system for like facilities monitoring the temperature in each building?
Yes. So we're getting there. We're working with a group called CTC, and we're unifying that. There'll be some disparate systems because we're going to go with Siemens on a grant. The $3.6 million we got from the Department of Energy.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to build 2 smart schools. So we're going to stay with Siemens there because, they've got that technology where we can tie the Internet of Everything into. And then we're contemplating something for Fairchild Wheeler based on the trained equipment that we have there.
Okay, I think there was just a conversation among board members separately, and I was like, I think I know the answer is yes, but I was going to ask publicly. I don't have any further questions or comments, and we lost quorum. So good thing there's no action on this. Seeing that we have no quorum at this time, and the only thing remaining was an adjourn. Not sure under Robert's rules, but I think it is fine to end the meeting. But I will gladly reach out to a board member so I could make sure I am absolutely correct before I do something wrong.
Stuck here all night. Call someone else. All right. Good night, folks. Thank you.
Oh, yes, it was motion to adjourn. Now second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Ah.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.